This is a skills training program by Fitzgerald and Briana Holland teaching you a netball shot.
A netball shot is classified one-dimensionally as gross, discrete, and closed. According to Gentile's taxonomy, the two-dimensional classification of a netball shot would be classed as type 2B, as it involves body stability, object manipulation, and is stationary and has intertrial variability.
The key aspects of a netball shot are the stance, ball position, and execution. For the stance, the feet should be shoulder width apart with equal weight on both feet. The ball should be held in your dominant hand high above your head. Your opposite hand rests on the side of the ball as a guide. It should not contribute to the force of the ball. In the execution phase, there should be a slight bend of the knees and elbows, followed by extension pushing through the ankles and up through the body all the way to the wrists. Wrist flicks as the ball leaves the fingers and the fingers follow through in the direction of flight.
To measure performance and improvement of the netball shot, testing needs to be conducted. That is, a pre-test, post-test, retention test, and transfer test. For the pre-test, do a qualitative and quantitative test. The qualitative test assesses shooting technique by scoring each key aspect, that is, stance, ball position, execution, and follow-through. Each of these key aspects will be scored out of 5, so that is a total of 20 points that the shooter could gain while taking the shot. The shooter takes a shot from each of the 8 cones placed around the ring. The quantitative test involves 5 shots at 8 cones placed around the ring. Hits and misses are recorded. The shooter will get a score out of 40. Post-test. The post-test is exactly the same as the pre-test and is conducted at the conclusion of the 6-week program. Retention test. A retention test is a measurement of performance that is conducted 24 to 72 hours after the post-testing has been completed. It is used to measure how well the learner has retained the information without coaching and after a period of disuse. A transfer test is used to assess how well the learner is being able to use the skill in a different situation. The transfer test is the same as the quantitative test, except a defender is introduced when the shot is being taken. Stages of learning can be categorized into cognitive, associative, and autonomous according to Fitz's stages of learning. In the cognitive stage, the beginner focuses on cognitively orientated problems related to how to do the skill. The person can't take in environmental cues and can only focus on trying to achieve the basic fundamentals or mechanics of the skill. Performance during this stage has numerous errors and they are generally large errors. In the associative stage, the person has acquired the basic fundamentals or mechanics of the skill. They are now able to associate specific environmental cues with the movements required to achieve the skill. The autonomous stage is the final stage and can take many years of practice and experience to get to this stage. In this stage, the skill has become automatic and habitual. Performance variability is very small and the person can detect many of their own errors and make required adjustments. In this 6-week program, you can expect to get to the associative stage.
Transfer of learning is the extent to which learned information or skills can be used in different contexts. It also occurs when previously learned knowledge or skills interfere with the learning of new knowledge or skills. In terms of the netball shot, if the learner has previously played basketball and has had practice shooting a basketball shot, this may impede on the learning of the netball shot and actually make it harder to master this skill. This is known as negative transfer of learning. A positive transfer of learning occurs when the learner is able to use the skills and technique involved in the netball shot in a game situation or when there is pressure from a defender.
Verbal cues or instructions should focus the shooter on the key aspects or elements of the shot. Ensure your phrases are concise, such as up and over. The shooter should picture a cone sitting on top of the ring and you need to shoot the ball up and over the ring to land the ball on the cone. Steady. This means ensure your body is balanced before shooting. Breathe. Every time you turn to the post to shoot, breathe first to be composed and settled. See the ring. When shooting, don't see or focus on the defender, just see the ring.
Demonstration is an important aspect when learning a new skill. It is most effective at the beginning of the learning process and preceding each practice. Therefore, we chose to demonstrate the netball shot at the very beginning of each training session when explaining the drill, then allowing the learner to try it for themselves, then also as required throughout practice. As the learner became more proficient in weeks 4 to 6, demonstration was reduced.
Feedback is important for the growth of the learner as it shows them what they are doing well and what they need to improve. We use the following feedback throughout the program. Concurrent feedback. This is feedback given during the program. Terminal feedback. This is feedback given after the program. Knowledge of results. This is external verbal information about the outcome. Knowledge of performance. This is information about the actual movement pattern and what led to the performance outcome. At the beginning, we used concurrent feedback more to ensure that the learner didn't use the wrong technique early on for the whole session. Throughout the program, we use knowledge of performance as it is important for the learner to know what they are doing right and wrong for the actual movement, as opposed to the outcome. If they are doing the technique right, they will get the results.
Guidance hypothesis is when the learner becomes dependent on knowledge results feedback. This can then affect the learner's performance during a game or situation where knowledge results feedback is not available. To avoid these negative effects, we used a phased approach to feedback. We began with lots of feedback and progressively gave less as the learner improved.
Distribution of practice. For beginners, it is more effective to have shorter and more frequent training sessions. So at the start of this 6-week program, the sessions were of shorter duration and more frequent over the week. As the program progressed, we lengthened the sessions and decreased the frequency.
Part practice involves splitting up the skill into parts and performing them separately. The segmentation approach was used and began with the wrist flick, then adding in the elbow flexion and extension, and finally performing the whole skill with and without the ball. Whole practice involves performing the entire skill at once. This was also used in training because the netball shot is high in organisation. Beginning with part practice allows the learner to break down a skill so they can master each part before trying to focus on the entire skill. Therefore, we focused on part practice heavily in the first 2 weeks and then just at the start of each session in weeks 3 to 6. A variety of practice tools were used. Blocked practice has low contextual interference and involves repetition of the skill. This was predominantly used at the beginning of the 6-week program. After 3 weeks, once the learner had improved the skill, random practice was incorporated into training in order to increase contextual interference, making it more game-like.
Mental practice is the mental rehearsal of a skill or part of a skill. Optimal learning of a skill is achieved when mental practice is combined with physical practice. In order to do this, the learner should imagine the ball going in the ring when they are first learning to shoot, without actually shooting the ball. While the learner is new at the skill, minimization of dual tasking should be undertaken. Dual tasking is a technique used by coaches to have multiple skills being used or taught in one exercise. While this is good when the person is competent, for the early stages of acquiring a new skill, it is more advantageous for the learner to focus on learning one skill at a time.